So this morning I want to spend a few minutes deviating from our conversation about new XtendFlex varieties or products in our lineup that are coming here in the next year or so, and talk about sudden death syndrome. This is the same trial I've been in before, and it's down in some bottomland on the South Fork of the Wolf River. And as you can see, the soybeans are up here chest high now, and there's sudden death showing up in this trial. So, and in kind of a convoluted way to think about it, but when we get sudden death in trials and the whole area that the trial is in has sudden death, we'll get better characterization of new products and their relationship or their resistance or tolerance to sudden death. In many years we don't have that opportunity. So this is an excellent way to characterize new varieties for sudden death. We also have a trial at Molta Bend, Missouri, which is in the Missouri River bottom, and sudden death is showing up in that trial across all varieties. So we're going to get some really good sudden death readings here on our XtendFlex products in the next month or so. And I'm already seeing some difference variety to variety. However, I'm not going to talk about that this morning simply because we'll know better in about 2 or 3 weeks as this disease metastasizes in these varieties. And you can see behind me, I'm not sure how well it shows up on the screen, but here's an area right here that has sudden death in this particular variety. And as we move right back here about 5 feet behind me, the next variety starts, and you see much less of it in that number. So I get, a half a dozen pictures on an iPhone sent to me every fall about some producer or FSR or some colleague asking if it's sudden death or some other disease, and we'll see a dead plant. Many times it's not. Sudden death is pretty easy to recognize. Now I will say this about the disease. It's a little bit of another one of those diseases that's misnamed. It's not really sudden. It infects the plant way back in the vegetative stages in May, and generally the best practice for sudden death is to plant later. So if it's planted in early May or April, there's a better chance of sudden death infecting the crop than if it's planted, say, in late May or into June. Now, in my opinion, many years that doesn't work, and the best move, in my opinion, is to simply select varieties and products that are resistant to sudden death or have better resistance than others. So you look at the sudden death ratings. That's the best move, in my opinion. We have Olivo on all of our XtendFlex trial material. All the seed that we use in our XtendFlex trials has Olivo on it. Olivo will help sudden death, but it won't eliminate that disease. And as you can see here, even with Olivo, we have sudden death in this trial. And we do at Molta Bend also, and those were treated with Olivo. It'll help the rating, it'll help the infection rate and reduce it, but it won't eliminate it. So sudden death, like I said, it infects the plant back in the vegetative stages and then shows up at harvest time. And it really shows up when beans, are in deep silt loam soils and the beans are growing well and we've had rain. That tends to be the years we get the sudden death show up. If it's hot and dry and the beans haven't got much growth to them, they're planted late, we'll see less sudden death. Sometimes it can show up and not turn into a big deal. Sometimes it can. So it's a little hard to say yet. Like I say, it has started to show up now, but we'll know here in the next couple weeks. And sudden death can be confused with brown stem rot. Brown stem rot tends to show up, I think, a little earlier, a little bit in drier conditions up on terrace tops, a little bit different situation. Sudden death tends to be a high productive, when soybeans are, like, say, chest high. That's when you start to see those types of years. And it has this skeletalized leaf to it. Now, you can see that in the lens there. And that's very definitive. It's kind of brown, and you can see that the ribs are still green, and the inner material between the ribs on the leaf turn, really almost a woody brown color. And so what you see is these sort of brown areas at the top of the canopy. And of course, the whole plant is dying suddenly. The plants that are the leaves that are just starting to look for sudden death, and I'll pull one here, you have sort of this almost what I like to call kind of a Clorox splatter look to it. You can see these light bleached areas, and this is the beginning of sudden death on that leaf. Now, the whole plant will die. it'll start like that and end up looking like that. Okay, but like I say, we are seeing some sudden death, and I think, like I say, it's I'm sort of excited about it, honestly, because we're going to characterize our new XtendFlex for sudden death resistance, and there is some significant differences in them. And in a week or two, we'll be more definitively be able to tell you which ones we like best or least for sudden death resistant in our new XtendFlex trials. So for now, that's this week. Like I say, next week we'll talk about our varieties again, and we'll continue that process. But this week I thought we'd talk a little bit about sudden death. It's easy to identify. It shows up this time of year. Like I say, from the road, it'll be kind of a browny area at the top of the plants in those varieties and fields that are susceptible